Hello everyone, it's Dr. Barden here. I'm doing a short video mostly to test the new webcam I finally got set up in my office. So now it's just not a screen talking to you. You can actually see me in the bottom corner of the screen there. So I'm just going to do a real quick video, kind of a little bit of a primer to some of the stuff I'm talking about in the upcoming week in my electronic music production course. And I'm going to talk about two objects, specifically the random and the earn object. These are some very useful objects for creating different scenarios, maybe stuff that's a little unpredictable, stuff that's, has a wide variety of options, a lot of different things. Um, there's not like a concrete result to all of these. These are all random number generators, but they work a little bit differently. There's a few other ones as well I may bring up if I've got the time. We'll probably talk about drunk as well as a bonus tool. So I'm going to start with random. Random here is definitely useful. It's the one I generally use the most unless I need the specific features of earn or drunk. But basically, you connect it up, and every time you send a bang to this object, it will output a random number. So if I connect all of these up, we'll set that there. We just have to tell it what range of numbers to select. So you can control that with the second inlet, set the random number range. But you can also just type it here as a just an argument right there. So maybe we want to pick a number. It's going to start at 0. So let's say between 0 and 4. So it's going to go between 0 and 4, and it's going to round down. I'm going to say 5 if I remember this right. Connect that up. Now if I lock that, or yeah, so I'm just, every time I click this object, anytime a bang message gets sent into here, we generate a random number between 0. It's between 0 and up to this value here. If we were to just open up the help patch, there we go. Between outputs a random number with range between 0 and 1 less than the number specified. So that's what we've got there. You can also set a seed value if you want to have a little extra control over how some of the randomness progresses. You don't necessarily have to do that, but that is something. If you want a little control and to add a little predictability, you can have it load a specific random seed every time. Because basically what's happening is that it's not truly random as far as the computer is concerned. It goes up, it'll essentially picks a random seed, and it will go through that order of numbers anytime it needs that random value generated. So rather than having the seed being picked kind of randomly and things changing in the background, you can hard code that seed, which again you could put down here just as another argument, or just say seed whatever as a message. So that's the random object. It just outputs a random number between 0 and 1 less than whatever number you tell it to do here anytime it gets a bang. You'll notice it doesn't always seem like it's changing, and that's just that it has picked the same number twice. If I was to add another bang object down here, you would see that even if the number doesn't change, there's that visual indicator that a number has been selected. All right, so let's look at earn next. Earn is a little bit different. I like to think of it, see if this is the actual name they give it, but unrepeating random number is how I like to remember this. Unrepeating not being, I think, an actual word, but it tells you what it does. It generates a random number without duplications. So again, you can, same kind of thing, set the seed, set the range, however you want to do that, but it will not repeat any numbers it has previously selected. So if I were to copy this over, there we go. We'll select that there. And you'll notice this one has 2 outlets. Very handily. Whenever you get to the end of a list, let's just say earn, oh, we'll say between 0 and 5, 0 and 4 again. Earn again. Whenever it has selected everything in that range, it will output a bang from the last inlet. 2, 4, 0, and that's it. Once it gets to the end, it stops because you cannot repeat any of the numbers. There's nothing to do. So what you have to do is essentially clear the output. So that's when you can just to make a message that says clear, and then you can just connect it up. I'll connect it from the bang object, but you can just go from the outlet. Connect you there. Connect you there. Yeah, it's that one. Or such a double check. So this isn't the prettiest bit, but that's just how this one goes. But if you send that clear message to the front now, if I clear it, this starts up again for 1, 0, 2. That's it. But then it starts up again. So again, you can fine tune exactly how you want that to work, but the earn will not repeat any values until you send it that clear message to kind of reset the output flow. So that's what we've got going on there. Drunk is a little bit different in terms of how it works. This can be a lot of fun to play with. But basically, it will output a random value, but only a number that's a specific distance away from the previous number. So if we go in here, you can set these again with the inlets or just have it as the argument. So the maximum value, again, I'm going to say, I'll make it specifically different. We'll still pick kind of low numbers of 10 with a step size of 3. All right, I've got that there. And I will just copy over my number box. Connect that up. And now every time I hit this one, we picked a number less than 10, a random one. And then now we'll either go up to 3 up or a maximum of 3 down. So it'll be anywhere between 3 and 9 or 6 again. 4, 3, 2, 4, 2, 3, 2, 1, 3. I'm kind of stumbling up again, back down. So where this becomes useful, if you were to plot these out on a graph, you would get just purely random data out of the random box. From the earn, again, you would get, it would be less random because you're not repeating any numbers, but still fairly distributed amongst the range that you've given it. But drunk kind of forms a as if you were really drunk and trying to walk, very stumbly line that progresses throughout time. I think in the help patch it had drunk.max help. If we turn on the metro to just generate that there, this goes through, you'll see that it's forming a more or less stable line throughout all of this as it moves up and down. There's no, massive jumps and valleys or repeated things like that. So it just forms this constantly moving and wavering back and forth kind of line. So that's there. A few other things just to mention. Again, you can set the value to start with, totally fine. Output range, step size, but if you have a step size that's negative, it will not do duplicates. So that's a handy little tool there. So you can have this be just like earn, but also have that. I always do that on this keyboard. Just like earn, except it still has that meandering look. So if I said that was -3, now every time I send, I'm tired of clicking that every time. I'm gonna metro 500 toggle. We're just gonna yoink do this. So this is how you make a metronome: is you tell it how many milliseconds between each beat you want it to have, and then you send it a 1 message, and it'll just output it every time. But now that I've set that to -3, we're not going to get any negative numbers, whereas before, and I'll make this a little more drastic with 5. Here instead, if we connect it up, we should eventually get some negative values. No, I'm talking about those are duplicates. I just got confused. You can get negative ranges out of here as well, but my brain went confused because I saw the negative there. It's duplicates. I misspoke. Coming out of the drunk object, you can either have them repeat or have them not. Kind of up to you. So the reason I'm mentioning this is because the next thing that we're going to be doing in my electronic music class, using Max, is that we're going to be deep diving into MIDI and messages and controlling things. We've done a fair bit of that already with the different synthesizers and being able to say, okay, output at this hertz, and if you change this number, that thing happens, and controlling it like that. But as we deep dive into MIDI and that specifically, we can use this for a lot of interesting generations of stuff. So for example, if I wanted to just throw together really quickly, we'll say there's the MIDI range. I'll make this a range of 127 is the maximum. Step range of 12, because that's an octave. MIDI to frequency. Cycle. Tilde. Cycle. Tilde. Boom, boom. I'm just throwing together all the big things that we've talked about. Helps if I have the right object here, and then I'll talk about what I did real briefly. Yoink. Boop. And all right, real simple synthesizer kind of going on here. I'm going to slow this down and say every 3 seconds we'll generate a note. But now, as we set this up, I'm just going to line things back up a little bit. And we can actually condense some of this vertically. Here, now I've got essentially a random note generator. Again, I'm not controlling the velocity, but that could be another thing that you do randomly if you want to. And we'll play with that a little bit later, but I'm just focusing on the note for right now. But if we were to lock this patch, turn up some volume, and just start this, then what we can expect is that every 3,000 milliseconds, every 3 seconds, it will output a note between 0 and 127, and then the next one will be no more than 12 numbers in either direction, because that's all MIDI. That effectively gives us a range of 1 octave from there, and then it'll trigger just this envelope for all the notes, and then we'll mix it in. So if we turn this on, realize I'm not. I think so. I'm gonna mute myself just so I can confirm I'm hearing that. All right, yeah, I was double checking that. I don't have my headphones plugged in right now, and otherwise I'd get a bunch of feedback coming from the speakers back into the microphone, and no one wants to hear that. So, again, random number generator, real basic synthesizer, but this could be any synthesizer that we've talked about in class here. So, your more complex additive or subtractive ones, the frequency and amplitude modulations that we'll talk about in a few weeks, all that there. So as we start diving into MIDI, one way that you can generate some, fun and just it happens by itself kind of patches is with the random number objects. And again, they just output a random value every time a bang is input to there into them. So you can tell them, hey, what's the range? And then sometimes in the case of drunk, you say, okay, how far can I move on each note? So again, random just outputs a random number every time it gets a bang. It doesn't care about repeats. Earn will not repeat a number unless it gets sent a bang message, which it will automatically output out the last outlet whenever all of the options have been selected. So it'll send that bang out, you can just trigger a clear back into the first inlet, and it will restart for the next one. And then drunk, like I mentioned, random number in the range, but you can specify how far it moves for each value as opposed to just being any number in that range. So hopefully this was helpful. Again, just a quick little exploration into using Max with the random number generators. We'll talk a lot more about this as we, excuse me, as we move along. Also testing, making sure the new webcam is working for the videos, so I can actually, do these in my office and you can hear what's going on. So that's all I've got for this one, and I'll see you next time that I see you. Bye.